Hello, listeners. I do hope that you are not going through a painful time in life. I don't wish pain on anybody, but I do know that pain is a part of life. And if you are or have, hopefully this podcast episode is a blessing to you. Now, this podcast will be coming out again on the 16th day of October in the year of our Lord 2022. It was originally recorded earlier than that, but I think it's worth. But I know we get, by God's grace, new listeners all the time, so I hope this is a blessing to you. With that, pain, a limiting factor.
Welcome to the Alpha Male Podcast, the podcast where we talk about manliness the right way, with God at the center first and foremost. For we are made in the image of God, strong, dominant, and in control. A place where we get together in this virtual tribe and stand up against the lies of modern culture and society. We're not afraid to be what God has created us and called us to be. Strong, dominant, alpha males, and we don't apologize for it. As you're listening, consider liking, subscribing, leaving a review of the podcast. If you agree with the message, you want other men to see you stand up and agree with the message. If you normally skip the bio, if you haven't heard it in a while or you haven't heard it, I would listen to it today even if you normally skip it. It ties into today's episode and I'm going to refer to it.
First and foremost, I am a servant of God, preacher, a fisher of men. God is number one in my life, and everything that I do in this podcast is no different, and I don't apologize for that. A little bit about me in the background. I grew up, I guess what you would consider a heathen. Didn't grow up a Christian, but I grew up in the southeastern United States, what most would consider very poor. Hunting and fishing and shooting. Joined the Marine Corps at 17, did a couple of combat tours in Iraq. After my combat tours in Iraq, I was an urban warfare instructor for the United States Marine Corps under Mojave Viper. I also served in law enforcement for several years in LAPD. I worked patrol assignments and more specialized assignments, where by God's grace, He got me through some nasty places in this world of war zones and some of the nastiest streets in the country. Not because I am better, because God chose to have mercy on me and had a purpose for me, and I'm thankful for that. After my time in law enforcement, I was a private contractor for federal government, for a three-letter government agency I won't specify, doing private contracting work. I'm very much involved in guns and gunfighting. I also served in the U.S. Army, both full-time and part-time National Guard. I should say my primary MOS is in both branches of the military or infantry, as of one sort or another. Specialized infantry in the Marine Corps and an MOS that no longer exists. I started competition shooting even before I joined the Marine Corps at 17. I won my first gold medal even before I joined the Marine Corps at 17. I've been blessed by God with the talents He's given me to win more shooting competitions than I can remember. I've won most of my competitions in rifle and pistol, but I've also competed in archery and shotgun and even muzzleloader, knife throwing, hatchet throwing. I've competed in all that. I've also been a professional big game hunter and guide. Like I said, I grew up hunting and fishing and shooting. I've done it to put meat on the table because I like to put food on the table with the talents God's given me. I don't apologize for that. I've done it as a professional hunter and guide. I've slain all manner of beast and guided for all manner of beast. Bear and wolf and elk and deer, mule deer, whitetail deer. I've slain ram and fallow deer and countless animals. And I don't apologize for that either. FBI certified, firearms instructor, NRA, and a bunch of other three-letter government agency certifications. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. Psalm 144. I've been blessed to be the commander of a tactical team, an SRT special response team in a large metropolitan area, where our primary job was to stop active shooters. But again, first and foremost, I'm a servant of God, called by God to share the good news, preacher, a fisher of men. With that, we will roll into the day's topic.
Today, we're going to talk about pain and fear as a limiting factor. So if you listen to past episodes, you'll know that I recently had a pretty traumatic injury, a life-threatening injury. Tore into and tore up my femoral artery. Quite a bit of blood loss, a life-threatening injury. By the grace of God, He still had a purpose for me and a calling for me, and He saved me. I had to get a stent, which is like a big metal mesh cage to hold my artery and to repair it that will stay in there. And this obviously was a new experience for me. When I went to the person to ask them about what I could and couldn't do, I didn't know if I should be concerned with pulling out the stent or moving the stent or causing the artery to open up again and me to bleed out. And she told me that wasn't a concern, that wasn't going to happen. I don't know if this is exactly what she said, but this is what I heard as far as what I could do. She said pain was my limiting factor. Now, this wasn't the podcast I planned on speaking on today, but it's been on the spirit for a while, so probably should talk about it. There's a deeper message, a deeper meaning in that. This was a very clear manifestation of what often happens in life. Pain as a limiting factor. In a very real way for me. I have never felt, and if you listen to my background, you can imagine I'm no stranger to pain, but I had never felt such intense pain or such prolonged pain in my life. It hurt so bad just to go to the bathroom. In fact, it hurt so bad at first that I couldn't go to the bathroom, which was concerning. If you looked at my leg, the only thing I can liken it to that I've seen in my life is it looked like a corpse. Rigor mortis. I couldn't straighten it, and it was painful to touch. But it was a big relief. It set me free when she said that pain was my limiting factor. Rather than that holding me back, that set me free. But I thought about that in the context of life. Two main limiting factors for us men. Pain and fear. And they tie in together. It could be fear of pain. But how many things in life does that hold us back from? Fear or pain? But what man grows strong without pain? Spirit, soul, mind, and body. But a clear manifestation of that on this earth is our body. What man has a strong body that didn't go through pain? What man has ever won a race and not felt some pain during and after? If he would have let pain limit him, he would have never gotten to the point of winning, of accomplishing, of overcoming. We all experience pain in life, of one sort or another. But do we let it hold us back? This can manifest in many ways. Now, I love my wife, and she has a master's degree. She has a master's degree in sport, health, and exercise science. And she may disagree with me on this because pretty much all my sets are a max set. But even if all your sets at the gym aren't a max set, you should do some max sets. And max sets hurt. Max sets are painful. But if you never push through that pain to see how many you can do, push yourself beyond failure, you'll never realize your true potential as a man. As it is written, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. That's the mark of a strong man, in my opinion. Not just physical strength, but a man that will push his body beyond failure. That's an alpha male. when you're trying to get that one more rep and you just can't, but you're giving it everything you can and it's just not moving. Your spirit is stronger than your body. That's the mark of an alpha male. It doesn't have to be just physical. How many of us have held back in a relationship because of the pain? How many of us have been unwilling to go through pain in a relationship of being betrayed, of being cheated or done wrong, so we don't ever fully love a person? We let pain or the fear of pain or fear limit us from the full potential of that relationship. Or we don't give that other person the freedom that they should have in a relationship because we're afraid that they might hurt us. Without freedom, can you ever truly love? Now, I love my wife. Now, by God's grace, I would never do this in real life or metaphorically. But if I wanted to be absolutely certain that my wife was never going to be unfaithful to me, I could, build a basement, build a dungeon, chain her up in there, and feed her every day. Keep her in prison. And I would be certain that she would never cheat on me. But that's not loving. I could likewise put her in a virtual prison where I was always checking her phone or, always worried about who she was talking to, looking at her emails. I could get upset when she was talking to somebody on the phone and I could tell that it was a man. I could do that metaphorically as well. What kind of relationship would that be? Would that be truly loving? Likewise, if you're familiar with the Bible and the story of the Garden of Eden, you may wonder, why did God put the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the garden if they weren't to eat of it? Why even put it there? Well, I would say that to truly love, there has to be free will. There has to be a free choice to love. If I had just met my wife and grabbed her and threw her in a dungeon, forced her to be faithful, would I ever really know that she truly loved me? It would be less risky for me for emotional pain, fear of being betrayed or made to look like a fool. That's not the most loving. That's not being an alpha male. I love my wife. I trust my wife. I would never do that to her just because I was afraid that she might do something wrong. By God's grace, we have a great marriage. I love my wife. Because I love her, I give her that freedom. And I trust her. Does that make me more vulnerable to potential pain? Yes. But it's worth it. Don't let pain or fear of pain limit you. And that goes the same with a relationship. If you're so afraid that a woman is not going to be faithful to you, perhaps there's a problem with you and not the woman. If you really do have to worry about her being unfaithful, you're not going to be able to keep her from that by force. You need, by God's grace, to endure the pain and not be afraid of the pain of moving on to a better woman. Either way, don't let pain or fear limit you in those things. Specifically, I can only speak from my experience, both for myself and my relationships in my younger years, and my wonderful marriage that God's given me now, and observing others. But be circumspect as a man and look at yourself and your own relationships. If you truly love somebody, there's going to be that potential that they can disappoint you, upset you. And nobody's perfect in time. No matter what, they will hurt you in one way or another. But don't let pain stop you from giving freedom, giving love, and sacrifice for another person. How many times we let fear or the potential of fear or pain stop us from a life goal? Now, I give God all the credit. I couldn't take one breath without Him. You heard my bio, all the things that God's allowed me to do in life. But if I had let fear hold me back, where would I be? I'm very blessed that I got to work LAPD, and that was a great job. But I knew that it wasn't my calling in life to spend my entire life living in Los Angeles. It's a very rare thing for a man to take his badge and his gun and turn it in. Just willingly to just say, no, I'm walking away from this. It's a prestigious job. I was told when I applied they take less than 1% of the applicants that apply for that job. It was the longest police academy in the country at the time. It may still be. But I knew that I that God had something else in store for me. I believed that. I believed that there was more out there. I turned in my badge and my gun. I didn't let that fear hold me back. And there's a real potential there for things to not work out. I'll give you an example. I mentioned in the bio I was a professional hunter and guide for a time. While I left a very prestigious job, in my opinion even more prestigious in LAPD, I was the commander of a special response team, an active shooter team in Las Vegas. That's a prestigious job. I was the commander of 30-something men. It's kind of a dream job. I got the opportunity, what I thought was a great opportunity, to be a professional big game hunter and guide. I walked away from that job. And you know what? That one didn't work out. I got one full paycheck from the man, and I was leaving for quite a lower salary, which didn't bother me, but it was a livable salary. But I walked away on a handshake of a man's word, and I forgive that man, but he paid me one regular paycheck of what he was supposed to. And then at the end, not at all. That job didn't work out. I took a big risk there and failed. That did not work out. I could sit there and be bitter about it, but that's just life. I didn't let fear hold me back. By God's grace, I didn't starve. Sometimes, if you're a brave man and you step out, you may sometimes have things that don't work out. That's okay. That's not the first time that things haven't worked out the way they wanted them to. And I'm sure if you're a man, they don't always work out the way that you want them to. But I wouldn't have achieved all those things in my bio, Marine Corps combat veteran, LAPD, mercenary, commander of a tactical team, even professional big game hunting, if I had let fear hold me back. If I had stayed in the same small town and worked a minimum wage job, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you're called to do and that's what you want to do. But if you want more, don't let fear or pain hold you back. You may go through some pain. Think of any man that you respect, any man whose life was worthy of you paying attention to and wanting to be like that person. Is their life free from pain? Is their life free from them having to make courageous decisions? It's easy to look at somebody that's achieved a bunch and think that you want to be where they are. But are you willing to go through what they went through? Are you willing to push through the pain? Because that's what alpha males do. By God's grace, got a very clear indication, a very black and white layout of that recently in my life. Going back to what I talked about before, I went from not even being able to go to the bathroom. This was a little bit over, just about a week over a month ago, so a month and a week ago, where I couldn't go to the bathroom on my own. It was so painful. And keep in mind, I refused all pain medications, except for when I lost so much blood I was unconscious and they put me in surgery. I wasn't conscious for that. As soon as I regained consciousness, I refused all pain medications, save if you want to count 81 milligrams of baby aspirin. I only reluctantly took because they said it would stop blood clots from going into my heart, killing me. Reluctantly took those, but 81 milligrams of baby aspirin is a very, very tiny thing. And that's if there was something I could take to thin my blood without any painkiller in it, but a very, very small amount. But I refused everything else that they offered me as far as pain medications go. I went from that not being able to stretch out my leg, and now it's nothing short of a miracle, to running and biking and going hiking up and down mountains, to doing leg press at the gym and leg extensions, and just being able to walk. Until you have a day where you can't walk, you forget what a blessing it is every day to be able to walk. Every day, a little bit at a time. Like I said, I couldn't straighten my leg out. It was very painful. But I pushed through the pain literally every day, day after day, pushing harder and harder and harder to straighten my leg out. If you've ever shot an animal, cut it open and taken the meat, ever seen blood clots in there? Well, my leg was full of those. Like I said, of corpses, and sadly I've seen more of those than I like to remember. The only thing I could liken to what my leg looked like. To being able to go running I plan on, by God's grace, going out hiking today, a little over a month later, pushing through the pain. Don't be afraid of pain. Don't covet pain. I don't want anybody to go through pain. I don't want to go through pain. I'm just telling you, as a man and as an alpha male, pain will be part of life. Buckle down, gird your loins, grit your teeth, and push through it. Now, pain is useful sometimes. The pain is a limiting factor. It would not have been healthy for me to go running or even try to run the day after I got out of the hospital. I would have fallen on my face and probably hurt myself even more. There is a time when physical pain is telling you something and it's something important. There are times that pain is useful, and there's a time where pain is to be pushed through and endured. And I say again, I don't want you to go through pain. I don't desire for anybody to go through pain, myself included. I don't like it. I'm not a masochist. I'm not a sadist. I'm just telling you, in this life you will have trials and tribulations. You will have pain. You will have to face fear and pain. I was told very clearly pain was my limiting factor. Is that not true for all of us as men in life? Pain and fear can be limiting factors if we don't beat them into submission and overcome them. You may experience them. You may taste them. Don't dwell on them. Don't let them nest in your brain. Many times do we think on something and make it even worse than it would be even if it happened. The fear of it happening is worse than even if it happened. I have to go back to like my high school days when I was dating. And likely many of you men can remember and be familiar with this, even if it's not part of your life now. Not going up to a girl that you liked and asking her out because you were afraid she was going to say no. A fear of something that's not even something to be feared, a fear of looking silly, a fear of rejection. Some advice that my father gave me about asking out a girl is, if you don't ask her, the answer is automatically no. So you let your fear hold you back from something. You're afraid that she won't go out with you, and because you're afraid, there's no chance she's ever going to go out with you. You fulfill that because of your fear. Just fear of rejection. It's not like if she says no, people are going to drag you out in the street and stone you to death. You're afraid of looking silly, looking stupid. You know how many times in my life I've looked silly and stupid? Because I actually deserved it or because I didn't, because somebody was trying to make me look stupid? Don't go through life afraid to look stupid or afraid to fall. I love my wife. I'm very blessed to have her as my wife. I had to get the courage to walk into her office and sit down, to talk to her, and the courage to ask her out. If you're waiting for that woman you really like to come up to you and ask you out, don't hold your breath. People can say what they want about toxic masculinity or whatever the garbage New Age thing is on genders, but women throughout history have admired bravery and courage, and that's not likely to go away anytime soon. The same goes with confidence. The same could be said for all kinds of things, business ventures. If you knew me in my personal life, you'd know that I'm not technologically very savvy. When I first started these podcasts, I literally started talking into my iPhone and uploading them. It could have been like, oh, nobody's going to, the fear of pain of rejection of them not working and not working out or nobody listening or looking like a fool or saying something stupid. I could have let that hold me back. I didn't, and year after year I talked into the microphone and uploaded it. Year after year it cost me money and time. So what? Push through it. If I get hate mail from somebody, say some really mean things, so what? I'm not going to let that pain or that person's anger or that person not liking me or whatever hold back what God has in store, and you shouldn't either as a man. Now I'm going to say, don't be foolish or reckless. God gave you a brain for a reason. Don't live your life in fear like a toad hiding under a rock. Step out like a man. Be brave, what you were created to be in the image of God. With that, guys, I want to say thanks for listening. Again, if you thought this message was worthwhile, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review of the podcast. For the sake of other men, if you agree with this message, liking and subscribing as I understand it. I said I'm not the most technologically savvy. Other people see it and find it and understand it. So step up if you support this message and leave a review, leave some stars, write a review so people can see and know that you support the message. The easiest way to support this tribe if you want to stand up and support it. You can also go to goodshepherdtraining.com. It's kind of your one-stop stop if you like this podcast. You may also like Gunfighter Life if you like guns and things about guns. You care about the important stuff, simple man sermons, the preachings of a simple man called by God to share the good news of Jesus Christ. If you like this, there are entire sermons on fear. If you want to support, these messages are free for you to listen to, but sadly they're not free to put out. Like I said, for years I did this and it just cost money. By God's grace, people do support the podcast now. I was able to get some better equipment, especially this year. And I'm very thankful for that. If you want to support in that way, again, goodshepherdtraining.com. And if you don't feel guilty about it. Guilt and shame are kind of the little brothers of fear and pain. Don't do anything motivated by that. If you have it in your heart to give, give. And if not, don't. And don't feel guilty about it. My God supplies all my needs. As a thank you for listening, I'm going to throw in a little tactical tip. If this podcast wasn't your cup of tea, I'm going to throw in something about guns and shooting. If you're into that, tactical tip on shooting on the move. Now you can practice shooting on the move without a gun, because sometimes you're in an environment where you can't have a gun. Even if you can, sometimes this tip helps to help you be steady and move in a fluid motion. And a way for that is to use fluid. Get a water bottle, fill it half full, hold it out in front of you in your same kind of shooting stance, your same kind of grip. Now it won't be exactly the same, but it'll be pretty close. And practice walking forwards, backwards, side to side at angles, around corners, and circles. Practice doing that, moving your hips, moving your legs, keeping your eyes not focused on the water bottle, focused on perhaps looking over the top of it, but seeing the water and move with it moving as little as possible. Get into that state where you can navigate around and have that water be still. That's your tactical tip for the day. Practice shooting on the move with a half full water bottle. Tying into that, I'll throw in a tactical verse of the day. I would encourage you to read and memorize all of Psalm 23. But the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. With that, get out. Be strong, prove yourself a man, and have a blessed day.